unbelievable movie. I love that movie. So as I said, I show three types of movies here. I show the big Criterion films. I show the movies that everybody likes. And I show the more challenging cult films that not many of you have seen. This is the latter of the three. This is a more challenging film that a lot of you haven't seen. And ultimately, there is a lot about this movie that I understand maybe why it didn't stay as... There's a lot of parallel. By the way, if you've never been in a film course, this is usually where I talk for about 20 minutes, and then I'll let you ask questions about film or this film, but this is a film class, so I'll do my best to teach a little class here. I draw a lot of parallels from this movie to Train Spotting. They both have kind of lesser follow-ups.
Oh, yeah, wow, that's very cool.
They're both
Never
about...
would have watched this movie by myself. Great film. Thanks for showing.
Oh, no worries. They're both about kind of a person choosing life, if you've ever seen Train Spotting. And they're really interesting movies because they are coming-of-age stories with unreliable narrators. I think a lot of times you see a coming-of-age story, it is grounded in a character that you just like love and you agree with, and their worldview is perfect right from the beginning, right? Like a good example is a Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Somehow at like 19 years old, Ferris Bueller has everything fucking figured out. He's got the world on a fucking string. Everything works for him. And he just blows through life and you go, wow, man, why can't I be like that kid who has everything figured the fuck out? That's really interesting that they create these very young characters that are like more adults than adults.
I would group kids in with those two as well.
Yeah. But the amazing thing about this movie is, first of all, can we give it up for Matthew Lillard? Oh my fucking God. Lillard, I have to say, Lillard is one of those actors who never got the praise he deserved. He is so unbelievably fried in this movie. Like, his range is crazy. It's such a specific character. It literally breaks my heart that everybody just keeps saying Shaggy. It breaks my fucking heart because the guy is such a fucking good actor. And yeah, he's Shaggy to most of you. But anyway, wow, 77% of you haven't seen this movie. Anyway, he's incredible in this role. And I think there are a lot of kind of lesser known actors in this film that are tremendous. Hey, if you guys have something profound you're going to say or anything like that, save it. This is when I talk and I'm doing my best not to read. If you notice, there's an actor from Donnie Darko who's like the main mod. There are a lot of really, really great actors who didn't have giant careers that kind of showed up in this and do a great job. But there's so much about SLC Punk where even though like I grew up miles away from Salt Lake City and I wasn't a punk, there is so much about this film that I relate to. Most profoundly, and kind of, I would say only this movie does this. And I always notice it because it's such an interesting structural choice, is putting their punk origin right at the end of the movie after Bob dies. Because I think it creates this really interesting, like, thought exercise that when we see a person, we always think of them as like a stationary target, right? When we see someone who has like a really pronounced sense of style or like, you know, has a very hardline way that they're living, you forget that that's a target in motion, right? They weren't always punks. Of course they weren't. In fact, they've been punks for a relatively short amount of time, but when you see these characters, especially in a movie, they are punks hard all the way through. And after Bob's death, you see this moment where they're just nerds and they basically choose this identity so that they're no longer nerds. And oh my God, do I relate to that. A lot of you young people right now, video games and comic book shit and D&D and all that is in the limelight. But man, we used to have to shelter those things in our own little closets because they were escapism for us. But then the world got so fucking chalked that everybody needed this escapism that nerds used in private. And so it kind of irradiated into the masses. But I remember being a kid with parted hair and a Hawaiian shirt in a comic book shop, and kind of as I went to boarding school and college, choosing to be a different person. It's really fascinating. Watching this movie for the first time in so many years, I loved people's reaction to it because they didn't know what to make of it. I love this movie because it's not really like any other movie. People got into it at first and they're like, this is going to be a comedy. This is going to be like Clerks. This is going to be a bunch of short stories. What is up with this plot? It's so sporadic. This is a tweaker film. This is a drug film. This is a history of punk. And people just kept throwing out what this movie is, only to arrive at this very sad ending and kind of have this moment dawn on them where they're like, holy shit, this is about growing up. This is a tragedy. This is the death of youth. That's what this movie is about. This movie is about the death of youth. And Bob dies at the end of this movie. Like the youth, the innocence, his friend jettison him into adulthood. And at the end of it, it's not even about being a punk because he says of his own volition, I'm a poser. Turns out I'm a poser. But I think that's kind of an interesting thing about everybody. At a certain point, if you really drill down hard enough, everybody is a poser. Everybody at the end of the day wants some level of happiness, joy, something that they can call their own home, some level of cargo that they can say is theirs. And that makes everybody a poser. We can't forever live the hardline kind of idealism of our youth, and that's a sad thing, but it's also a good thing because then we can save the world for the next generation to fuck it up, and hopefully they fuck it up a little less than we did. Kind of the cycle that the movie is representing, right? It's amazing because so many movies like this would have made the character of his father just an out and out asshole, right? Just an out and out intolerable piece of shit. Jason Segel was not a poser. Yes, he was. He went on to be a tree hugger. Did you miss that part when he went on to study botany? The hardcore punk taking care of trees, not very punk. So I think the tact that it takes with the father to prove that little through line of humanity in him and to show that his dad was doing his best is this really tactful note in this film that I love. Because you see Shooter McGavin and you're immediately like, this guy's a fucking asshole. And then you're like, yeah, he's not that bad. I don't know. I love this movie. I love the monologues. I love the humor. We'll miss the whole aspect of it. Huh? Please tell me what aspect I missed of this film. The whole aspect. Apparently I missed the whole film, apparently. Anyway, I hope I didn't miss the entire film. I love this film and I've watched it many times. It's one of the few DVDs that I had in boarding school. And ultimately, it's really funny because when I would watch this movie as a kid, I would hold so hard to the part of the film when he's a punk. And that appealed so much to me. Right? Like fighting the system. There I was forced to be at a boarding school And I watched the movie almost how like young men watch American Psycho, where they take the wrong piece. Take the wrong piece. The wrong part of the film is what's appealing to him. I saw that tribalism. I saw that rage. I saw the violence, the excess. And I went, well, this is the point of it. And watching it as an older person, you go, oh, God, man, was I totally off the beam. However, I think this film is excellent. Obviously, I think what is excellent about this film is the director, who never really did much of anything else. I think a lot of these stories are probably true, or at least based in some level of truth. I think that he must have been from Salt Lake City or had some experience with being a punk, and he has translated and uplifted and embellished a lot of stories from when he was a kid, because it feels so intimate, it feels so personal, it feels so real, and it's just a fantastic film. Anyway, I really enjoy this movie, and I hope you enjoyed it too. Did anybody have any questions about the film? Lighthouse ? Yep, I've seen that movie.
Oh yeah,
The
wow,
dad's
that's
line
very
in the
cool.
beginning, I did not sell out, I bought in, encapsulates the film so well. Yeah, it's a funny line in the beginning and kind of a poignant line at the end. Are you a poser? Well, I was never really a punk, so I don't know if I can say that I was a poser. But yeah, I did just do an ad for Progressive today, which doesn't make me exactly feel very punk rock. This movie is reminding me of manga I read that has almost identical beats. It's called Bakon Retsu, and it's a confessional coming-of-age story of the author's Banzu's youth. It's very cult, but one of my favorite pieces ever made. I highly recommend it to you or to others that also enjoy this movie. This was my first watch, and I was glued. Have you seen the sequel? I have not. I haven't heard great things about it. Not a question, but a comment. The movie... Oh, well, I just read that. Have you seen the clip of Matthew Lillard explaining his experience filming Bob's death scene? Makes the scene hit it even harder. No, do you have it? Can you link it? Well, let me pull it up. Matthew Lillard, Bob death scene. What the? Oh my God. I don't see this. Matthew Lillard on Bob death scene. I don't see the clip you're talking about. What film did you just watch? SLC Punk. What are your punk ties, though? Who are some punk bands, movements that have inspired you? Well, I mean, I am the biggest Velvet Underground fan in the world. I absolutely fucking love the Velvet Underground. Like everything they ever made, I absolutely obsess over. And I also really like Iggy Pop and the Stooges. I'll be honest, punk was never really for me, but those two bands are insane, amazing, unbelievable, fantastic. Listen to everything by them. I actually got to see Iggy Pop and the Stooges at like California Jam or something like that at like 70 something years old, and he still fucking rocks it.
Covering my friend who had OD'd, accidentally OD'd. And we did the first take before lunch, and I faked it. I literally couldn't cry on the day. You're looking for something to happen as an actor. You're looking for real emotion, and it all was gone. Nothing happened. And then I spent the entire lunch stuck in that room, and I kept thinking about my dad. And we came back and they said action. And I had this moment of like, my body took over and I hysterically cried and lost my mind. If I watch that scene today, my entire body will crack and I'll start crying again. And it was the first
Well, that's
time.
funny because we have a clip.
It was the first time. It was the first time in my life that I realized that I didn't have the technique to be an incredible actor. That I was young and trading on charm and comedy, and I needed to be a better actor. So then went back to like sort of school and class. I still take class. My class starts in 2 weeks. To become a great actor. And so it's always a journey. You always want to be incredible. But for that was like a learning moment that I found something as a gift, but I knew I couldn't repeat it. And so then I've gotten to a place in my life where there's multiple times in my life I'm in Twin Peaks and I had one take to sort of lose my mind. And because of the challenge of that scene and learning and taking my craft seriously, it changed how I approach acting. So thank you for that question, actually.
Yeah.
Which is to say, if you're an artist, no matter where you are in success or in failure, in youth, or at an age where you think you don't need training, you do. I mean, my whole thing is like, as artists, we are always growing. We are always striving. Like, if you are lost and stuck, just go back. Because class isn't sitting there judging you. The only reason you don't do the shit you want to do is guilt. It doesn't serve you as an artist or as a painter or as a cook or chef or whatever your joy is that you've gotten away from. Just jump back into your fucking joy because it needs you. And once you'll do it, you'll be like, oh, I forgot how good this feels. So, oh. Boo!
Boo! Yeah. I mean, that's incredible, right? Like Lillard in that take, you can see almost like what a profound breakthrough he's having as an artist, which is crazy. You don't even really need to hear the story that he's tapping into his father's OD. He's just so genuine in that scene. It's crazy. Why do you think the parents divorced? I don't know. Any number of reasons. I think that is largely unimportant in the movie. Speaking of movies where lost people trying to find groups, have you watched Green Street Hooligans? Wow, Green Street. Man. Fucking Frodo Baggins being a goddamn stouser, mate. A fucking soccer hooligan. Really, really good movie. Green Street is great. What I meant is Jason Segel's character being the only actual punk one is he went on to fight for the rainforest, to fight for humanity versus the season. That's what I meant. He was the only one that was that actual punk. I disagree with that. I think they're all punks. I think the point of the movie is that all punks are eventually posers. I think it is impossible to be a true punk is what the film is illustrating. And honestly, if any of them was a true punk, it was Bob, who died before he could sell out. The only thing Bob did to sell out was fall in love, which I don't know if falling in love is punk. Or not punk, but that's the point, right? Is that being punk is like a system. It's like a purity spiral, just like being a fucking hardline commie. You know what I mean? Like everything has to fucking, there's always going to be someone who's more fucking anti-establishment, anti-whatever than you. And then it becomes its own tribal system. And punk is an interesting backdrop for it, because it's basically a tribalist society for anti-tribalists, right? It's a drinking club for anarchists, and that is kind of the point. I think they are all punks, and then they all grow up. What do you think the significance of the acid trip at the beginning where he sees his mom as a bull is? Is it a metaphor? No, I think he's just on a bunch of acid. I don't think there's much metaphor there. I think she has large shoulder pads and she looks like a bull to him. What is a mod? Good question. A mod is like another kind of social group from the area or from the era, a style. It was a subculture that emerged in the 60s in Britain. It's sharp, clean-cut aesthetic of 10 incorporated tailor suits, narrow lapels, bright colors, and scooters. Mods also favored an androgynous look with short haircuts. One of the first groups that I can remember being like mod was The Who. But you've probably seen mods before, and there was like a run of it in the United States in the 80s. But mods look like this. Here are the Beatles, but they were like super clean-cut, British-looking go-go ding-dong. Yeah. Song/story of punk versus redneck. Story starts at 19. I think it just fits.
Here, y'all, this time. Oh, and suddenly these jocks in this.
Oh, it's it's the Dead Kennedy song. Yes, that definitely does fit. Peace and love. I am not.
Oh, yeah, wow,
I said
that's
this
very cool.
honestly.
Thanks for showing
I
us that
don't
terrific film.
love
But
punk
off topic,
music.
have you
I
seen
don't.
Aftersun? I don't
There
think
are
I've cried
punk
like that ever in a
groups
film. The
that
final
I
shot hit me
like.
so hard.
I like The Who, which is like proto-punk. I like Iggy Pop and the Stooges, which is like proto-punk. And I like Velvet Underground, which is like proto-punk. Actual punk, I'm not huge on. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Do you like ska? Peace and love? Peace and love. Not really. There's some of it that's okay. I grew up in Utah, and the scene of rich kids trying to be punk is still very alive in SLC. Do you think the more extreme the culture is towards control, like the Mormon Church, exemplifies the likelihood of posers, or can it be found in any state? Likelihood of posers? No, I think the point that you are pointing to, he talks about in the movie, and it's actually strangely relevant to something else going on in the world right now. But he basically says when a group of people live at the control of religious extremists, they're much more likely to rebel because they feel that oppression. They feel that pressure constantly in their life, and they want to rebel to it. And so I think youths are constantly rebelling to the fake niceness and the religious intolerance of the Mormon Church. Yeah. Will's Summer of Punk. Listen, I don't dislike punk. There is, as I said, there's some punk that I like, but like that, but I'll be honest, like The Clash, Dead Kennedys, Sex Pistols, not really for me. It just doesn't sound good to me, honestly. I just don't, I don't get it. Rancid, also don't like it. Yep, you keep saying names of punk groups. I don't really, not my genre of music.
Oh yeah, wow, that's very cool.
I think there's a strange parallel with how Sean talks about how he's sitting alone surrounded by water and he can't move or else he'll drown, and then after Steve-O is going through his crisis, that scene is shot so that he and Bob are purely surrounded by reflective water.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was intentional.
I don't know. This movie, it kind of seems to be done on a shoestring, on a hope and a wish and a prayer. And so I think they were kind of finding locations that were just very like Salt Lake City and pretty. I don't know if they had that hard line symbolism in mind, but certainly it's a good point. I know they try and bookend the film with him kicking Bob and, you know, It's a Beautiful Day. And why do you think most movies don't fuck with nonlinear storytelling nowadays? It's scary. Jazz is always scary. It's much easier to sell a straight line narrative plot to a studio than it is to be like, and then we're going to have this, and then we're going to have this, and then there's going to be that and that and that. And the film exec is like, what if we just had a hero's journey where two kids, it starts with the D&D scene, and then they become punks, and they, you know, get into a thing with some jocks, and they make their way through, and at the end they grow up, but they're still, you know, punks, and they're saving the world, and it's cool, and he falls in love, and everybody's happy. If Steve-O was a real person today, what do you think he'd be doing now? Practicing law. I think the parallel of him being depressed and the friend that was zooted is good. Maybe not be on purpose. I agree, though. Interesting. You touched on it a little bit, but in regards to Matt Lillard's career, outside of the surprise success of Five Nights, he mostly is regulated to Scooby-Doo and Scream appearances over the recent years. Do you think he has an outside chance to discover some more serious roles? Yes, I do. I think Matthew Lillard is one of those guys who might have a late career like bloom. He's so charming, and he's got like a unusual good looks to him, and he you know, I think he's a guy that could have a really great second chapter. All it takes is for him to be in like a good Apple show, and he's back. He'd be a great Plastic Man in DC, by the way. Have you seen Lillard's directorial debut, Fat Kids Rule the World? Good story about two high school outcasts. No, I haven't seen that. I gotta check that out. The scene where the nerdy punk guy reveals he's going to school for botany had the craziest camera freak out I've ever seen, where the main guy seems to be sitting with them at the table, then turns to the camera and kind of just floats in the shot, then reverts to sitting back at the table. Yeah, so that's an overlay. And they kind of like have him float almost like he's a Jedi. Really interesting shot. There are actually a few shots in this movie where they really take a chance and just film something weird, which I love. You see that in a lot of like directorial debuts where like someone is like, I'm going to make my shot. I'm going to make a signature shot. Cool. And they just do some weird shit. Yeah, like the acid leg shot is another example of that. I love shit like that. It doesn't always hit, but it's, you know, give me an idea. Thank you for the tier 1 sub. Watching your reaction to that scene with Bob had me. Appreciate that vulnerability. Yeah, you know, I had a friend die at about that age, and it was pretty tough. On the topic of youth always rebelling against oppressive culture, the metal scene in Japan has exploded over the past decade, or so purely as a rebellion against the strict tradition of Japanese culture. Yeah, I mean, the Japanese metal scene is fascinating in the same way that SLC punk is fascinating, though, because the metal scene in Japan is so fucking poser. Like, it's excellent. It's phenomenal. It's great music. Don't get me wrong. But the way that they attend metal shows in Japan is like very similar to the way that they would have us attend like a J-pop show. Like they all have like, you know, the light sticks, like they're bringing in a plane and they're all in unison and they know every lyric and they're all in full garb, which is like exactly what he's saying in this is like they're rejecting the culture of Japan and they're revolting against organized society by opting into another organized like social group with a uniform.
I'm ballsy. I don't take
really
shit
interesting.
From anyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing my favorite movie. Amazing that 75% of the chat got to experience it for the first time.
Yeah, I'm excited
Love
by
you,
that.
Will.
Have you considered directing a film? Yeah. Maybe one day. I saw the movie when it came out. I was in college. My issue with it was when it was that the end felt like an abrupt change, and I fell Bob's death was cheap and kind of drugs are bad. Now older, I'm not as harsh on the ending, but I do wish it was a bit longer to flesh more things out. But I know that isn't always an option in that they may not have had the resources or time. Well, I mean, I don't think at any point in this movie is the point of this movie to be drugs are bad. Most of the characters are fucked up for the majority of the run of the film. I don't think it is a drugs are bad thing. I think it is more like teens do really petty, dangerous things without even thinking about it. Like, she gave him those drugs to hurt him. Like, she saw how many of those he took, and she gave them to him knowing he didn't know a thing about drugs. And then she snickers with her mod boyfriend that, like, oh, we fucked that guy up. I think that's more the point of it. I don't think it's that drugs are bad. I think it's that when you marry youth with powerful narcotics, dangerous situations can happen. Do you have any more modern film recommendations that deliver a similar counterculture vibe? My immediate thoughts go to mid-90s or kids, but it's easily one of my favorite genres of film. If you've never seen Trainspotting, I think is very akin to this movie. Yeah, mid-90s. Mallrats, Slackers, Empire Records.
Oh yeah, wow, that's very cool.
Airheads?
Nah, Airheads is more of a pure comedy. Detroit Rock City. Oh, and Spun, dude. Holy fuck, Spun. Jesus Christ. Spun, man. What a fucking fucked up weird movie. Dude. Spun is fucked up. Spun is purely about being a tweaker. It's not like a counterculture film. It's like about being a tweaker. It's straight up being a tweaker. The movie is fucking crazy. Speaking of drugs, have you seen Go? Oh yeah, I've seen Go. Enter the Void? No. Nah, not even close. No. What? No. Enter the Void is a 2.5-hour experimental film about the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
I'm a stud. I'm ballsy. I don't take no shit
go
from
ahead.
anyone.
The Kneecap movie has similar counterculture vibes.
Oh, that's a good one. Kneecap. Yeah. Anora? No, Anora's not really about like a lifestyle. It's about a very specific character that just happens to be a stripper. If you want to use a Bean movie, I would say more Florida Project than Anora. Florida Project scratches that itch more. Requiem for a Dream. Also, no. I don't know if that's really about a culture as much as it's about being like hopelessly addicted to heroin. And I don't really know if there's any like levity or like coming of age in Requiem for a Dream, more than it's just like a pure waking nightmare that will traumatize and haunt you always. He's asking for movies that are like SLC Punk. I gave the ones that I think are like SLC Punk. Those other ones, listen, Enter the Void, love that movie. Requiem for a Dream, love that movie. I don't know if I would say, ooh, Easy Rider. That is a good one. Breakfast Club or nah? Well, we've watched Breakfast Club here, and I really like Breakfast Club. I mean, it's more comedy, but maybe Tank Girl, not even fucking close. Tank Girl is like a superhero movie. Tank Girl is fantastic, but not even fucking remotely similar. Have you seen Party Monster? Ooh. Oh. Okay. Either that person who just asked that is like a deep, deep film head, or you are super gay. Those are the only people that watch Party Monster. There's no in between. Or you're both. Either you are like a really big film junkie, or you are like super mega $2 unicorn homosexual. There's no in between. This movie, I fucking adore this movie. Party Monster is such a bizarre movie. It is a totally different movie in the sense that it's like nothing like SLC Punk. Other than that, it is by a young filmmaker who is just trying shit. Party Monster is a bizarre film. Party Monster is a true story of two party promoters, James St. James. I'll never forget that name. James Marco St. Marco is based on James St. James. I've never mentioned that. I've never mentioned that to anybody ever, because no one's ever asked me. But James Marco St. Marco is based on this character, James St. James. I always thought his name was fucking incredible. I heard it. You told us a long time ago. No way. I don't remember ever saying that. When have I ever talked about Party Monster? I can't even remember talking about this film. You have 3 years ago? God, you have a better memory than I do. I do drugs. But anyway, this is a true story of two promoters in New York's club scene at a time when the New York club scene was like the nexus for the entire partying world. It is Michael Allig was this guy who teamed up with James St. James, and they basically ran the New York party scene, particularly in this club called the Green Light. And the Green Light like started rave culture, like started like late night culture. Like it was the epicenter of like modern clubbing as we know it. And these two guys through these decadent parties, sorry, Limelight, not Green Light, Limelight. Sorry, I'm old and I got drug brains. By the way, I was never there. I was too young, so I only know this by name. But they threw these parties that were like theme parties, and then they were deep into like amazingly toxic drug use, and they ended up murdering, dismembering, decapitating, and launching their drug dealer into the fucking like river in New York City. It's a true story. It is crazy. It is fucking crazy. It is a fantastic movie. In fact, we can watch that next week. We can watch the Hudson. Yeah. We can watch Party Monster next week if you guys so choose. It is another deep cut cult classic. Anyway, by the way, I will say this. A lot of people ask me this. Will, what is the greatest movie soundtrack of all time? And there's a lot of acceptable answers. Blues Brothers, Guardians of the Galaxy. Party Monster is in that conversation. It is like some of like the old like proto-pop shit.
Fame, glamour, money, success. Fame, glamour, money, success. Okay, she doesn't get enough. She doesn't get enough. She doesn't get enough.
Dude! Overdose? I haven't heard this. Oh my.
She doesn't get enough. Okay, she doesn't get enough. She doesn't get enough. She doesn't get enough. She doesn't get enough money. She doesn't get enough slots. She doesn't get enough hoes. She died from an overdose. She doesn't get enough cocaine. She doesn't get enough party. She doesn't get enough girls. She doesn't get enough. She doesn't get enough money. She doesn't get enough slots. She doesn't get enough hoes. She died from an overdose. She doesn't get enough cocaine. She doesn't get enough party. She doesn't get enough girls. She doesn't get enough. She doesn't get enough money. She doesn't get enough slots. She doesn't get enough hoes. She died from an overdose. 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 She died from an overdose.
God damn, bro. What other songs are on this? Bro, this soundtrack is disgusting.
This is true. I have the best time when you're there too, honey. After the show.
This soundtrack is crazy.
Watch the world breathe.
Oh my God. You're My Disco? Dude, that shit goes crazy. Wow.
Baby, can't you see? Playing on the radio, on the radio.
Dude, the craziest thing about this period of time is that ecstasy hadn't been made an illegal substance yet. So they just would take like fish bowls of the shit and throw it out to the crowd at these parties like fucking gobstoppers, bro.
Cool.
They were
Everyone
just
at the
doling
Aussie
out
version of that first song.
medical grade fucking legal press pills. Real shit, dude. If I had a time machine and someone had already gone back and knocked off baby Hitler, I might go to the Limelight and go to a Michael Alec party. Now, I know he killed someone, but maybe I could stop that murder later on, because I bet those parties were fucking lit. Anyway, that's Party Monster.
Oh yeah, wow,
Um,
that's very cool.
I always
appreciate your movie
Thank you
choices,
so
my
much.
guy.
Do you think Bob was intentionally costumed to dress like Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver? That's interesting. No, I can kind of see it, especially with the mohawk. They were old man here. That is fucking sick. That we had a chatter who is at the Michael Alec fucking Limelight parties. VIP that guy. I think this movie says a lot about the responsibility of adults. It feels like he's becoming a poser so other punks can exist. I feel like childhood trauma is a huge part of that. The reveal that Bob made the decision to change from his desire to escape his father. He mentions issues with his dad, and we have the shotgun scene where Steve-O understands him better. I love what you just said there. They Live? Yeah, great movie. Speaking of drugs, Climax blew my mind, and I watch it based on your recs. Mads is very similar. Mads is really interesting. That's a bizarre film. Belongs in film night? Absolutely not. There's so much fucking nudity in Mads. There's no way we could watch that movie on film night. Half the night would just be me looking at my fucking face, man. If I remember correctly, there's like 8 sex scenes in that movie. No shot.
I'm a stud.
Yes.
I'm ballsy. I don't take no shit from anyone.
Chat. When will the co-host of Fear and Talking about movies similar to SLC Punk bring up Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Oh man, Orgasmo at Will Neff. That movie sucks. It's funny, and I love Trey Parker and I love Matt Stone, and they have made such important stuff. But Orgasmo sucks, and you'll probably never watch it here on a movie night. It really is a total piece of shit. It's funny. It's a very funny movie, but Orgasmo is a total fucking piece of shit. Don't get me wrong. It's the first steps of like genius, but it's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Yeah, I mean, I am a giant fan of the Doctor. And I've read all of his books, and I read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and I've watched the movie. That would be an interesting one to watch on film night. You read? Not as much anymore. I basically only read comics now, but I used to read a lot. Have you ever watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang? Not on film night, but I have watched it before, yeah. Named a podcast after it. That I did. I do think that his style of journalism and the way that he looked at the world, Hunter S. Thompson, was fascinating.
At Will Neff, thank you so much for showing this movie tonight. There's a picture of me from when I was 19 with hair past my shoulders, and I really thought I was on a meteor with no way back. Now I'm in sweatpants working remote every day and pretty done H.
Oh yeah. All right. I mean, I'm pretty much in sweatpants right now. Are you watching 28 Years Later this weekend? Yeah. What's the last great comic you read? Oh, dude, the new Superman is so I usually don't fuck with Superman. But the new Superman comics are really good. He's like a fucking commie, and he's like more Batman in the way he does shit. You gotta check that shit out. Absolute Superman bangs. All of the Absolute comics bang. Slut Girl, dude, Slut Girl, yeah. I got all those originals. Please, movie, please. We just finished, man. I'm sorry. This is the end of the film class. All right, we are at the point of the night where people just put film title and question mark, and nothing productive happens at that point. So this is where I bid you adieu. But I hope you enjoyed film class. If you're new here, we do this every Wednesday. We'll watch a movie. We'll talk. I will talk at you about that movie, and then I'll let you answer or ask questions, and I will answer those questions honestly until we get to the part of the night where people just start putting the name of a film with a question mark. And that's when I know that all the intellectual questions have died and people just want to know if I enjoy the movie that they enjoy. So thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this film class. I really enjoyed doing this for you guys. And somehow, Jesus Christ, somehow we have managed to keep this thing fucking going for 5 years. That's fucking stupid, man. 5 years. Some of you guys have been here doing this fucking film night thing, man. That is crazy to me. That literally features on the platform have come and gone. The platform has changed. The world has changed. But you guys know every Wednesday you can come and watch a movie.
Oh, yeah, wow. That's
and
cool.
piss me off
WNF.
and laugh with me and cry with me. And I hope that this little token of my affection makes your life the slightest bit better. I hope the films I show you inspire you, challenge you, and ultimately get you to watch even more movies. Thanks so much, guys. You've made my life such a better place. Can't tell you how grateful I am for each and every one of you coming through here every night. I'll be back tomorrow. I appreciate you so much. Stay dangerous. Have a wonderful evening. Go give Ness my loves. Throw him some fucking subscriptiones. If you got a Prime or you got some bits rattling around in that pocket, go ahead and blow it up for him. All right, everybody, have a wonderful night. I'm going to bed. Goodbye.